Welcome to the LeapSheep Startup Builder Live Q&A. This is the place for any startup founder to ask burning questions that are keeping you up at night and learn from our guest founders and startup support experts. And of course, LeapSheep's own startup building experts have worked with hundreds of founders and their teams. Welcome, I'm your host today, Kirk Drage, and I'm the CEO and co-founder at LeapSheep. At LeapSheep, we're on a mission to flip the 95% failure rate by making expert and personalized startup building advice and guidance accessible and affordable to all founders around the world. If you're a founder, welcome. If you've joined live, it's great to have you here. The show is all about supporting you to get from idea to a business model hypothesis that can get to product market fit and then validate that it actually can before scaling up safely and avoiding that 95% failure rate. Thank you to the founders that have sent questions in before the show. And if you're watching live, please drop questions that you've got into the comments in either LinkedIn or YouTube, and we'll prioritize those questions during the show. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to have Pippa Smith, founder of Social Labs, with us. Social Startup Labs is a specialist agency dedicated to launching new brands, new products, and investment campaigns. Pippa supports purpose-driven startups launch, scale, and has supported over 10 million in capital raised. I describe Pippa as an expert generalist, having done many roles across capital raising, business development, marketing, and community development. She's also worked inside startups like one of our favorite Aussie Perth-based startups, Space to Co. Pippa, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Kirk. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
It's great to always great to chat to someone that's so passionate about startups like we are. So you've got a great background, and I think we were chatting before the show that you've always sort of had itchy feet. Whatever role you're in, you felt like you need to move on, and I think it's a pretty common trait that I hear from startup founders, that they never kind of feel settled in the role because they want to do something themselves. Tell us a little bit about your background and what sort of led you up to get the confidence and feel like you're ready to jump out and start your own business.
Yeah, okay. So I would say, well, my first job that I ever had in the kind of like startup and capital raising industry was when I came out of university. So I think I must have been maybe 21 at the time, and I was in London, and I worked for a company called Perspective Pictures, and they were a video first production agency in Highbury, Islington. And the founder of the company was 25 at the time, and he ran a team of 20, which is pretty crazy. And we just worked with a heap of incredible founders. We were on shoots like all over the world, which was pretty crazy. And the culture there was really, really great. So they had a great team. Everyone was kind of under the age of 30, and it was really fast paced. So I learned a lot really quickly. I realized that I loved working with founders. We worked with a lot of businesses that were raising capital. So they were Seeders and Crowdcube's like lead agency of choice. So when a company would want to raise capital, we would do all of the videos for those types of businesses. And that's kind of where I got an interest. I'd also always been quite entrepreneurial, even when I was quite young, and always wanted to run my own business. So I tried a heap of different like side hustles and projects. I worked with them for about 9 months, and then in COVID, I started working for a rewards-based agency. And so they did a lot more kind of like product launches and campaigns on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And I really enjoyed that as well. And yeah, I worked across like sales, marketing. I had experience in the video side of things. And then when I came back over to Australia, I always knew that I wanted to set up my own business. I'd also had like a subscription-based protein ball business in the UK on the side, which it got quite a lot of orders in COVID, so that was fun. But I was just doing it on my parents' kitchen, and so when I came to Australia, I was working at a tech-based business, so a tech startup called Space to Co, which I know you mentioned earlier. Yeah. And I also consulted for an agency in Perth on the side. And then I realised that there was no agency at the time that offered end-to-end services supporting startups that were raising capital primarily through crowdfunding.
Yeah.
And so that is when I started partnering with the intermediary platforms here. And then eventually I dropped down the number of days that I worked at Space to go to 3 days a week and then 2 days a week. And then I went on to set up the business. And that was full-time 2 years ago. I started running the business. And it's been so crazy. It's literally been amazing. And we've worked with so many incredible founders, so many incredible projects. Yeah.
Wow, what a background. You've got, so many parts of your background aligned to helping be a great founder, like your early exposure to global markets. I think that's one of the things that I see with founders all the time is you just don't realize how big the world is if you don't get out and experience it, because the world's a massive place and the marketplace is just enormous. Video, obviously. I don't know if you knew how big video was going to be and how that's just become, the dominant media form, right? So you've obviously got some great experience in that space.
Yeah, I think, honestly, the agency that I worked at in London was one of the pioneers in like digital first video production, he was so ahead of the times. So that really helped. It was amazing to work there, and a lot of the staff that went on from working there have done some pretty cool things. So we're still connected with some of them. We still even work with some of them to this day. Like we've got a video editor and animator who's incredible in London, and we actually recommend a lot of clients to her as well. So she works for herself now, which is nice.
Cool. Yeah, that's fabulous. And obviously you've got so much experience in different kind of roles, as you said, which I think this concept of being a generalist when you're a founder, I mean, obviously a lot of founders need specialists for certain things. Like if you're doing, I don't know, if you're at the leading edge of agentic AI, or if you're doing something in, humanoid robotics, you need those, deep specialist skills for that particular thing. But running a business, there's just so much to know and so much to learn. If you've had that generalist history, you kind of have a bit of an understanding that certainly helps you, doesn't it?
It really does. And so I think I was very lucky that I have worked in a lot of sales-based roles and marketing roles, because the two are quite helpful when you are running a business. But then we also had like niche industry expertise in capital raising and crowdfunding and product launches, which then tied in really nicely when we started running our business. And as you said, like the exposure to international markets, we knew that the crowdfunding market in the UK was well ahead of anywhere else in the world. So they've like equity crowdfunding has been around in the UK for over 20 years. Even VC funds will use it as a way of raising funds. And so we knew when they passed the act in 2018 over here that it would take off. So we had like this niche expertise in one particular field, but we also I was quite like generalist, and I enjoyed doing a lot of different roles. I was interested in a lot of different things within like the business realm.
Yeah, and having that experience in the UK, as you say, that's ahead of the Australian market when it comes to crowdfunding. It's like seeing the future, and so you can predict it when you get here, which is always so valuable when you can find those kind of opportunities. And of course, you also mentioned Space to Co, and shout out to Dan and the team. They are a fabulous Aussie startup based in Perth. And one of the things I love about their team in particular, knowing them quite well, is they've got a great culture, and I think they really, really exemplify the best of the startup culture. So having experience in that firsthand, it's founder-led business, scrappy startup. They've really built that, the hard way. And having experienced that culture, I'm sure you learned a ton in that environment too.
Oh, I really did, and they were amazing. I explained pretty early on, and I think they knew that I was like quite entrepreneurial or like had a real interest in business. And so I explained to them after a couple of months of working with them, look, like I love working here, but my end goal is to run my own thing. And they really helped facilitate that, and I'm so grateful. Dan was an incredible mentor to me. they also give their staff a lot of autonomy and flexibility, and they pivot really quickly. So I know even since I left Space to Co, they have expanded massively. They raised capital. I think it was like late last year, early this year, but they really understand their customer so well and build their product around understanding their customer. They had a very good team culture, and it was amazing in the time that I worked with them. It was amazing to see how much they grew then and how much they've also grown now.
Yeah.
And it was really, I'm just like really grateful that they gave me the ability to drop down the number of days that I worked for them, because we had a mortgage and, things to pay for. And so it did enable me to start my business. And I still had great exposure to and learned skills that I use in my business now, like particularly the sales-based skills.
Yeah. I mean, that's so great. I mean, it sometimes feels to founders countercultural to help your team in that kind of way, but it's so valuable if you've got a team member that comes on board, if you're a founder, and you know that they want to become a founder at a later stage. There's a great two-way exchange of value there that you can get. You train them up. They usually overperform because they want to learn like a sponge, because they know what they're going to use the learning for. And so if you play that right, it's such a good outcome for both parties. You might feel sorry that you don't get to keep that staff member for the long term, but it's still a great value proposition.
It really is. And I do think if you are really passionate about what you're doing and you look after your staff well, you'd be happy for them when they do, when they do go and take those skills. And I think Space Co are a really great example of that. And we try and do the same with our staff as well. So and a lot of the kind of founders that I've spoken with, and founders who have exited, have these wonderful stories where they had a great team that they had built, and then when they did exit, everyone kind of won in that scenario in some way or another. And they're the kind of stories I love to hear about. And for us as a business, I want to make sure that our staff are win in the business with us as well. And I think it does create a really lovely culture. And that's, as we grow the business further, that's what I kind of plan to do.
Yeah. It's so hard to build a business by yourself, isn't it? So they talk about the one person unicorn as kind of a topic of discussion at the moment.
Yeah, and you do need a great team. I'm very fortunate. So my husband also works in the business as well, and he did a similar thing to me, where he moved down to 3 days a week, and then moved across. But he was working hideous night shifts all the time as well, when we were just starting out, and still does now sometimes. But that was a great support for me. A lot of people do ask about whether, how can you work with your husband every day? But we have very different skill sets. And he manages different projects to me. We manage different areas of the business, and it does work really well. And as life partners and business owners together, we have a lot aligned and in common. In general, we do a lot of things together. So it is, if you can find a great business partner or you have a great team, it makes such a big difference. And speak to other founders as well, of course. Recently, I've been having some mentorship from some great people, and that has been really helpful for me in thinking about how to grow the business, and just getting perspective. And also, you do feel lonely on the journey. I don't have a heap of friends who run their own businesses as well, friends from school growing up.
Yeah.
And so it's important to immerse yourself with other people who are doing it.
Yeah.
It really
so true. Yeah, it is a very lonely journey. It can be, because the things that you're experiencing is just different than so many other people that you mix with in social circles. And I think working with your partner is it forces you to have better communication, which is if you can push through that, it's healthy. It can be hard at times, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the communication is key, and yeah, just like staying on top of things really. Having like we set up like meetings, so we have like 15-minute meeting in the morning, 15-minute meeting in the evening, and that's with all of our team, and it just works really nicely because you do stay on top of things, and sometimes when you're really busy or you've got a heap of campaigns on, you don't feel like doing it, but it really does help with the productivity of the business and making sure you're across things.
yeah, and getting that work-life balance. I think that's a really healthy conversation to be able to, if you've got a partner that understands it, because I know my wife's sort of mostly managing our kids at the moment, but she was in the business, and having that deep appreciation that we want to run a successful business, but not at the cost of the family. And you see, a lot of stories about how marriages get broken and families get broken up all because of a business. And I think the reason that you build a business is because you want a great platform for your family. It's not, it shouldn't be either or. And so it's great to be in that position.
Yeah, I agree. And from the perspective of like you own a business and you don't want the business to own you or end up owning you. And I think it's hard to get a balance, isn't it? But it's something that we like continuously work on together, because if you are in a business with your partner, it can feel quite consuming sometimes.
Yeah, really, really can. And if you've got different personality types, I know my co-founder, Catherine, she's a very different personality type than me, and that's such a strength.
Yeah.
Because we have completely different perspectives on things, which means that we see problems from different perspectives and see different solutions from different perspectives. But naturally, it creates a lot of conflict too, because you've got different perspectives. So it's a strength and a challenge. So we're always working hard to try and make sure that we keep the relationship intact despite having that great perspective and approaches to things, which is never easy. It's never an easy thing.
It isn't. And I think if you can have a great like co-founding team, a great relationship, great communication, you can go further. And not like there's some kind of saying where it's like, oh, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I like that because I think Zach is very like grounded, and I guess he's very, very structured, and he brings a lot of structure to the business. He's also very creative, and has like very good ideas for like the creative strategy. So it really helps for us. And I do more of the like communications, client management, the overall like agency direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds great. And I'd love to know who's the ideal client for you for Social Startup Labs. Who's your dream client? What do they look like?
Well, we do work a lot in the equity crowdfunding space. So with businesses who are raising capital and want to get their community involved, want to get investors on board. And so we do offer like end-to-end services to facilitate that and drive as much awareness around a campaign as possible. However, we do also do quite a lot in the product launch space. We did a Kickstarter campaign recently. We do a lot of like testing market fit projects as well. We're doing some really interesting stuff with a few tech businesses at the moment who are launching like the B2C side of their business.
Yeah.
And so, we do a little bit of like branding here and there because we have a great design team. So, anyone who's launching a new product, brand, service, we work with very early stage to businesses that are generating over 20 mil in rev, which is pretty cool. So we see quite a variety. And I think something that's really interesting about the way that we work, because we look at financial statements all the time, and because we look at business models and we look at things from an investor lens, we do have a different approach on the marketing side of things in terms of what is actually driving revenue. We don't look at like the vanity metrics. We look at what is actually like, where is the interest and how can that help your business scale from a like a revenue and profitability side of things as well.
Yeah,
And yeah, we try and make things as cost effective for businesses as possible. So if, sometimes people will come to us and they'll want to do something quite big, but we'll say, oh, actually you might be better placed to doing something more cost effective and test first. And then you can go and do all of these things. We would much prefer to test something and make sure that the data is there to back it up. And then, we like to try and make it as cost effective for clients as possible in a way that will help them scale long term. And we have unfortunately seen, like some people will come to us and they will have spent so much on the marketing, so much on building out a fully fledged product, but they might not have tested market fit or customers. And so that can be an expensive process to go through and then have to reiterate later. So we have like great recommendations, I think, on how you can test early without spending a heap of money.
Yeah, that's so valuable. I think it's the difference between working with a business like yourself that actually specializes in startups versus just moonlights in startup. This is like one of my number one conversations when I meet founders for the first time is talking about, what kind of support you need around your business and what good looks like. And often that's not a conversation that anyone's had with them before. And they think, oh, I need a great law firm or a great accounting firm or a great, marketing agency. But what does great mean? Let's talk about that. And working with people that actually really understand the startup space is very different than people that think they understand the startup space. I mean, most marketing agencies will tell you that they've got a list of startups that they've done work for, but then you dig and you ask them, well, how are those startups going now? What lessons did you learn? And there's crickets. So having someone like yourself that's really specialist on startups and that really understands the journey, I just can't tell founders how valuable those kind of people around you are.
And even we have a heap of free resources. We have a newsletter that goes out once a month as well with all of the kind of free resources and free value add. Like we try and make it as easy for businesses as possible to take away and digest that before spending heaps and heaps of money. It's so important.
Yeah, that's so great. And I think this is one of the things that makes Silicon Valley is they've got a lot of these kind of resources that have grown up over the decades. And we're still, most startup ecosystems around the world, it's not an Australian specific thing. It's most ecosystems that are not Silicon Valley just don't have that history of support organizations that are really specialists in startup support. So, it's incredible to have, an agency like yours in this country helping founders out. And the other thing I love about what you said just there is that founders typically have a problem in their mind they want to solve. Like, for example, they might be in market with a product, they've got customers, but they're not growing. And they're like, my problem is I need to grow faster. So I need better marketing. But of course, that diagnosis of I need better marketing might be the wrong diagnosis. And as you say, if you go back to them and say, well, are you really targeting the right customers? And are you solving the right problem? And are you packaging price the right kind of way? Or maybe you've got a sales problem. Maybe your marketing's great, but you can't sell because you haven't packaged your solution the right kind of way. I think that kind of perspective where you're not just a one trick pony, where I'm just a marketing agency that all I can do is market. That's so valuable to founders.
I think so. It's just the overall strategy piece and the advice that you can give people to make informed decisions as well, particularly when it comes to product launches and creating a fear of missing out, to ensure a campaign doesn't flop. There's all those kind of things as well. Under equity crowdfunding, the way that campaigns are set up are entirely different to a generalized marketing campaign as well. The audience targeting is very different. There's very specific legal disclosures that you need to have on all of your assets to ensure that it's compliant with ASIC.
Yeah.
So there's so many things to think about, and it is a sprint-based campaign. Those campaigns last for 8 weeks, and so you have to be so reactive. You have to be really careful about the comms that go out. And yeah, we've essentially, when we set up the business, it's actually worked out quite nicely, because we've always worked at that kind of speed and that detail, that now it's filtered into all of the other kind of like product launch based stuff that we do as well. And it's a similar strategy, but it's just a different marketing approach. We had a founder come to us maybe about 6 weeks ago now, and they came to us and they were like, Pip, we are thinking of doing a big rebrand to, launch our product in the B2C space. We want to do all this influencer campaigns. We want to go on TikTok. And yeah, we want to like rebuild our website. And then when I sat down and spoke to him, I was like, okay, well, what interest have you had to date? And he was like, actually, we're getting a heap of interest for our product from the donor group. We're having a lot of interest for our product to be basically featured in events and at parties, and for it to be rebranded under particular bars and hotels. And they were like huge bulk orders, like much bigger than you're going to get with the B2C side of things.
Yeah.
And so he had spoken with other agencies that were going to charge an absolute fortune to do this full rebrand. We're like, yeah, do all of this influencer marketing. We'll set up your website, and it's for direct to consumer. And that would have cost the absolute earth. B2C marketing can be really expensive, and he was getting so much revenue from the B2B side of the business and so many bulk orders that I was like, look, like there's some really cost-effective ways that you can do a LinkedIn automation campaign and go out to all of these people like Doma Group, go out to all these restaurants, go out to all of these bars, and say that they can stock and order your product.
Yeah.
And then you can go down the B2C side, and you could even feature a QR code on the product itself that's going to be featured in all of these big events that you've got lined up. And then you've still got the B2C side of the business that will be being promoted, but it will be more organic. And then you can start building that after you've got some money.
Yeah.
And so but everyone else had told them to go the other way round, because it sounds like the better thing to do, right? It's the shiny object.
Yeah. 100%. Like thinking about that go-to-market strategy, which is what you're talking about, and helping startups to think through that. Because if you get that wrong, as you say, it just costs you so much money. And if there's an easier way to make money that you can then reinvest into the next step of your journey, it's just so much smarter use of capital. And I think this is something that we're always talking to founders about is are you thinking about your capital efficiency? How capital efficient are you with building your company? It's easy to solve problems with money. If you've got the money, you can spend a ton of it. I mean, you see all the startups that raise a ton of capital and then fail badly because they don't actually innovate. They just execute with money. And that's not the goal of a startup, is to figure out how to innovate and create something new and novel and different. So yeah, I love that approach. I'd be interested to hear your advice to startups about both equity crowdfunding as well as product crowdfunding. What's the best time for them to come to you? Should they start to build their own audience first? Do you help them do that? Like, is it different stages for different companies? What's your advice and guidance there?
Under equity crowdfunding, I'd say that you definitely want a bit of traction there. So to have built out like an MVP, have some form of like customer base and traction, because it's something that investors will look for. So whether that's like signups, partnerships, a community, and then you can go out and promote that to colder investors as well as your existing community who can get involved and invest. So that's a pretty important part. If you are looking at crowdfunding, like equity crowdfunding, it is like it's about the crowd, and so you want to have some form of customer base there already in order to activate that, and then you can also bring in cold investors through advertising and other kind of sources. With the rewards-based crowdfunding side of things, you don't necessarily need to have any customers, because with a platform like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, you're essentially building up a sign-up list, getting as many people there before launch day as possible, and then you'll launch your Kickstarter campaign, and ideally you want to fully fund on day one. And then you can create a fear of missing out and remarket that to everyone else who hasn't converted. And so we actually did a Kickstarter campaign that just finished this week, and they had, I think they had about 2,800 signups, which was amazing. And that was at a cost of like $5.30 on average for a sign up from the ads that we were running, which was awesome. There was so much interest, so much demand. They fully funded. I think they were overfunded like about by 400%, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we did find that one of the kind of barriers, or a lot of feedback that customers were saying was that the product was expensive, and so that campaign was really great for them, because they had their MVP, which they had built out. They tested the market fit. They got the signups. They've got a heap of people who have ordered, and then they can go and facilitate that and build out the product. So they know how many they need to build.
Yeah.
They've got the funding to do that, and then they will be shipped next year. The customers have got a discount on the price of the product as well, so they're happy. But what they found from the experience is they will probably go and iterate and make new products based on customer feedback as well. That might be, more cost effective, or they will look at their margins and see how they can make something that will still, enable them to create product that will also, be in alignment with some of the customers or signups who didn't buy. So it was a really, really great campaign. It performed really well. But again, like there was massive demand on the customer side of things. There was also some of the news around the actual topic itself was quite timely, but there was like great customer feedback that they got from that process as well. And you can do that through a simple like e-commerce launch, so you don't necessarily need to go through Kickstarter to do that. They take like a commission on like funds raised, so you can do that in a simple landing page with a sign up box above the fold. You can promote it to Facebook groups who are your specific target audience, or who you think is your target audience. You can run some ad spend behind it, put it in subreddit groups, get it featured in some newsletters, do a bit of PR, and say, okay, the launch date is going to be this date, get the signups there ready, and then do a limited batch or a limited order. For anyone who's listening, paint a jacket in the UK is a really, really great business model and example of people who do pre-launch strategies really well. And they launch jackets, I think it's 3 or 4 times a year, and a limited batch of jackets, and they sell out in like 7 minutes. Wow. Which is pretty crazy. And even the Kickstarter campaign that we just delivered for a client that overfunded in, I think it was 7 minutes, which was good. So yeah, it's all about building the demand, getting people lined up, and then converting them on launch day, get the momentum there early on. And it's the same for equity crowdfunding or any kind of product launch. You want to create demand.
No, that's awesome. And I assume for hardware based business, that rewards crowdfunding is really they're more suited to that. If you're a software business, that's where equity crowdfunding might be more appropriate for you to think about.
Yeah, there are some. You do sometimes see app-based campaigns on Kickstarter. However, I would probably look at more of a like like sign up page or like, yeah, platform based launch as opposed to doing a Kickstarter campaign, because I think the incentive for people to back something early is usually that they will get a tangible product on Kickstarter. So even with like STEM products, you know, you see that there might be an app, but they'll also have a product as well on Kickstarter. I have seen some apps, but they haven't performed particularly well from what I've seen. Yeah, I would do a normal kind of like pre-launch sign-up page.
Yeah. It's a you know, common thing that I hear is people say when they're going to do a launch. I always see that as a potential red flag when a founder uses the word launch, because often what they mean is they want to reveal their MVP to the world and start selling it. Whereas all the things that you're talking about in terms of, you know, building wait lists, building that demand and validating that demand before you actually do a launch is you know, just a very smart way to go. Always want to validate demand before you validate supply, and also depending on the product that you're building, doing very, very small launches where, you know, particularly in the B2B SaaS space, sometimes you may only want to take, you know, one customer off your wait list as your first customer. And so having the right kind of marketing campaigns that can be very organic to find those kind of ideal customers to learn what the market needs, because often I think it's really easy to underestimate just how much feedback you're going to get from your early customers and how much things are going to change. And by the time you get to your 10th customer, if you're taking feedback from each customer along the way and integrating that feedback in, you end up with quite often a different product. So thinking about the timing of how big and how fast you want to go. Have you got any advice for founders around that?
Yeah, so in terms of like timing for like a Kickstarter or an equity crowdfunding campaign or a product launch, you do need like good assets in place. So like photography, videography assets. I would usually allocate like 6 weeks before you want to raise to creating all of those types of things. But we sometimes engage or chat with clients up to like 6 months in advance. We do sometimes do like pre-launch strategies with them as well, to test market fit. Even for an equity crowdfunding campaign, we sometimes, if they're very, very early stage and they want to go down that route, because the market conditions have changed and investor appetite changes all the time, sometimes we'll just run low spend to look at what the interest is like in terms of registrations for that side of things. We also do like customer based like sign up bits and pieces to activate their community before you go and do a full launch. Yeah, I would say anywhere from like 6 months to 6 weeks, depending on what existing traction you have, what community you have. 6 weeks is a good, like you need at least 6 weeks in advance of doing a raise like that to prepare everything, especially like your content.
Yeah, absolutely. The earlier that you can start working with a founder on these things, generally the better, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it will help with the success of the campaign. We had a campaign last year. They were just going out to their private community. They were like a farm to table model. They did an equity crowdfunding campaign, and they raised 1.15 mil. And they came to us like 2 weeks before Christmas, and Christmas is traditionally the most difficult time to raise. And they were like, we want to raise, and you get everything ready for us, including like the offer document, which is basically like a legal pitch deck, all of the assets. And I was like, you're cutting it quite fine, but we did do it. We actually managed to do it.
Wow.
And the raise was really successful. But yeah, that was quite stressful.
Yeah.
They had a lot of traction in existing customers. So we could get everything prepared relatively quickly. But if you're really early stage, you need to you don't need to necessarily invest heaps in the content, but you need to have something like some form of material that can be used, right?
Yeah. And who's the what does the ideal business look like for the equity crowdfunding? What if there's a founder out there thinking, is this for me? Is this not for me? What's the sort of attributes that make a good candidate for equity crowdfunding?
Good. So generally good traction. Revenue is helpful, or like letters of intent, partnerships, customers, brand ambassadors. Sometimes we like leverage for raises. You'll have, you're solving a problem in a market that, in a different way to anything else. There's heaps of different types of businesses that we work with. So like food and beverage brands, ag tech is like a big one, fintech, prop tech, so property technology. We're working with an escape room business at the moment who they're expanding nationally, and their raise is going really well. We're working with a peri and menopause based app that's going to be offering telehealth. We are working with, more like product-based businesses. We're working on an app-based campaign. So I would say it does vary, but the most important things is that you've got some form of traction, or you are going to get that before you go and do your equity crowdfunding raise. Partnerships, PR helps, like if you've been featured in any publications or have any awards, your product is unique or it has IP. Revenue is very helpful, or growth in signups or growth in revenue. Profitability is even better. Like gross profit margins, like strong gross profit margins.
What I noticed about some of the examples you give there is there's strong sort of thematic communities, like the farming community is pretty strong. And I think there's also a social desire to see people in that sector do well. The property sector, like in real estate investments, obviously a big community people are passionate about. Is it partly about sort of aligning with those established communities that are already looking for opportunities within their area of interest?
We do have like particular audience targeting we know works very well, and particular messaging that works well for these types of campaigns. However, you can have very complex businesses. It's just about, and that's part of like our job as an agency, is to consolidate the opportunity in a way that does resonate with retail investors, so they can understand, what is the bigger opportunity here? Why should I actually be investing? And so you can have these really technical businesses that are have a lot of IP, and they're really niche, but it's just about how you communicate that properly to a wider audience, and whether people will see that as a good opportunity, I guess, to invest in. Also, we do see a lot, and we work with a lot of businesses that are good for people on the planet. So ESG aligned, they're doing something that is purpose led, and we love working with those types of businesses as well.
Yeah, it really, really helps, doesn't it? And on the investor side, have you got any insights into the different cohorts of investors? Is there a lot of serial investors that love investing in these crowdfunding equity campaigns, or is there a lot of first-time investors that come in, or are there a lot of customers of products that love investing in the companies that they're buying products from? What sort of trends do you see on the investor side?
Yeah, really good question. So we usually see sometimes up to 60 to 70% of the total investments come from like cold investor audiences and from the paid advertising side of things that we do. However, that fluctuates based on what kind of community the existing client has and how much ad spend they want to spend as well. Because if they do have a really great active community, like the client I was explaining, that's like a farm to table model, right? They only did a raise to their existing community, so they didn't spend any money on ad spend. We just did email marketing and app promotions with them, and that was enough to raise what they wanted to raise to expand their warehouse operations. Whereas like if you're really early and you don't have an existing community, then you're probably going to have to spend more on acquiring those types of people, like the cold investors. And that's why it does really help to have some form of community, because they're going to be like brand advocates, they're going to be loyal followers, and they, you know, they're not just going to be investing from a financial lens. They're going to be looking, you know, they're passionate about what you're doing and want to get involved as well. Yeah, so it does fluctuate. We can usually see, like, so the intermediary platforms are pretty good at having like a dashboard, and you can see, okay, like, I'm an existing customer, we love the products, we love the investment opportunity. So you can usually see the dial of what that kind of looks like, and it does fluctuate from campaign to campaign based on their existing community. But it's always interesting to see where those people are coming from, and you can look at the back end data and the ads to see that as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. I'd love to get your perspective on where do you think the crowdfunding industry is going? How's that evolving over time? What are the trends that you've noticed over the last little while, and how are things evolving and changing?
I think there are certainly a lot more like household brands using equity crowdfunding as a way of activating their existing community and raising funds. You also
It's more about just tapping into awareness and not necessarily needing equity. You're talking about like big established brands that are using this approach.
Yeah, they'll use it as a, like, they might have had, you know, customers ask before, can I own shares or can I become an early shareholder? They might have suppliers who want to get involved as well. And so equity crowdfunding enables them to do that. And under like the financial structure and the way that it's structured, it allows you to have, you know, multiple shareholders under your cap table. I think the industry is evolving like pretty rapidly. We also do a bit more in the wholesale investor space as well now, and generalized product launches, as the strategy is very similar. And the approach is pretty similar as well.
Yeah, fascinating. And what about the economic cycle? We've seen you know, a lot of capital go in the last 10 years. It's cooled significantly in the last 3 or 4 years. How are you seeing that changing? What investors are looking for, and what kind of product campaigns are successful?
Yeah, great question. So in COVID, there was like a massive boom when you know, it was pretty early on when Australia passed the Crowdfunding Act, and there was people with a heap of discretionary income who were just like investing all the time. And then there was definitely a dip in the market late last year, early this year. Not so much with people who have engaged communities who want to invest, but for those really early stage businesses, it's definitely much more difficult to raise money. So I mean, as an agency, we always will recommend to clients, look, like, these are the things that you can do in advance to ensure that you're going to be in a good position to raise money if that's what you want to do. And bootstrap that as much as possible.
Yeah, fabulous. Yeah. And how do you see the sort of general product space play out? I mean, we tend to deal mostly with tech businesses that are using AI, in particular SaaS businesses, smart hardware businesses, and with the technology that's now available to, you know, write code, to do design, mock-ups and prototyping, both software and physical. We're sort of seeing a bit of an explosion of the sheer volume of people that go, yeah, I'm going to give this a crack.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that on your side as well?
Yes. Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of like integration with, like AI, or people launching AI-based apps. I still think there is a need to like really like test the market, because there's like so much like now you've got all of these different tools that you can use and software that you can use to really like streamline things and make things so much faster. but it's still about like finding the right customers or the right market fit. But it is a lot easier for businesses to scale and streamline their operations through AI. And yes, there is like a massive boom at the moment in innovation, or using tools like NAN.
Yeah. I think it seems like there's going to be a massive change in the number of products. Like you're going to see this explosion in the number of products because of how easy it is to create a side hustle or build your own product, which means that marketing is going to become the battleground. There's only so much attention to go around, and you've got to be better at winning that attention. And so we were talking earlier before we started the call about some of the transitions that we've seen in the sort of the last decade or so when it comes to marketing. What are some of the general principles? And you talked about really trying to help your customers as much as you can and providing sort of resources for them to self-educate. Have you got any sort of general advice for people that are struggling with just pure marketing and understanding how the market's evolving? We talked about video. Can you bring together some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, firstly, I would say it's really important that you invest in your own personal branding. If you're a founder or an expert in the field, or at least have like one of your founding team members doing that a fair bit. For example, for us, we do a lot of marketing on LinkedIn. So just like organic marketing, but I also reach out to a lot of founders. We have a newsletter which has like free tips, resources. I do the occasional TikTok. Like if I have more time, I would honestly pump out the TikTok content because the investing in giving people education and allowing those people to come on a journey with you will help them see I see the value that you provide, really, right? So like from us providing free resources featuring like interesting startups, interesting founders in our newsletter, we always get people who, I might not have spoken to in a year, but they'll message me and be like, oh, hey, Pip, this was really interesting. Thank you so much for this. And so you get the feedback, and then you as a business are front of mind when they are looking to, do marketing or deliver whatever service you offer. So I think personal branding is really, really important, and investing in, getting free education out there. It's also just helpful for the founders, right? Like we love giving away as much like information as we can to help them on their journey. And we really, when we do work with businesses, we really treat the business as if it's our own as well. Like we're just so invested in helping them because we know what a difficult journey it is.
Yeah, it's one of the benefits of working with a founder-led business like yours. The empathy there is huge. But I love your comments on both personal branding, because this is a conversation I'm having all the time with founders is, should I be posting my content on LinkedIn, for example, as my company page, or should I do it personally? And, our strong opinion is it works better if you're doing it personally.
It does.
Because people get to like you as an individual and see, your authenticity, your passion, et cetera, which is hard to convey if you're standing behind a brand sort of anonymously. And the other thing you talk about is permission marketing, which is much more being helpful rather than sort of thinking about how do I find leads that I can pitch to, which tends to be I think a large mindset out there. Both in the marketing world, where I see, your inbox in LinkedIn is probably full like mine of people saying, I can get you more leads, I can get you more qualified leads. And it's like, if a marketing agency is pitching that to me, they clearly don't understand marketing in the space that we're in. And that might be okay for, for some segments, but certainly not the segments that we're in. So I love Seth Godin and, all of his content around permission-based marketing, which really aligns with what you're talking about help your customer to make the decision whether you're the right service provider for them. And if you empower the customer, they'll make the right decision.
Yeah, exactly. And I follow a lot of like newsletters. Like the newsletters that I love are also quite led from like the founder. I think there's some really interesting strategies that you can put together and framework within your own business, so that if someone signs up to something, yes, they might get a company branded message, but then you can also have like flow on automation, so that something directly comes from the founder and says, oh, hi, thanks so much for like signing up, like gives a little bit of context behind the business owner itself. And people trust people, not brands. So I think that's one of the ways that you can really get people to understand a bit more about what you do, but also they're more likely to be invested in your business as well.
Yeah, 100%. And just as we begin to wrap up, I think it'd be remiss of me not to ask you if you've got like a favorite AI tool in the marketing world, or you've either using something or seen something that's made a big difference, because obviously AI is something that's impacting all of us as we figure out how to adopt it into our businesses. Is there a tool that you've seen or you're using that you love?
Yeah, good question. So my husband has actually set up a heap of automations. He's like the expert in on that side of things, right? But he's set up a heap of automations for us so that we get all of the insights in like the capital raising space directly sent to our Slack every morning. We're then setting those up to be able to provide free value adds that will go out across like LinkedIn, and that's through N8N, and I think it's Make.
Yep.
So yeah, we use a lot of kind of automations like that help internally with our business, and also sometimes we implement them within other clients' businesses as well if they need support with that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's evolving so quickly, isn't it? You gotta stay on top of all these tools. It's I'm finding out about new AI tools literally every week that I didn't even know existed.
I know, I could just like spend my life looking at that alone. Like it's wild. And there's just like, I subscribe to like a heap of great newsletters that have so much value add, and I like go through them and then I save them into my Slack channels and then I refer back to them, and I'm like, oh, I just could have like 2 weeks where I could just like sit and digest all of this. And I get so like fixated on something and want to learn about it. My husband's the same actually, like he's very good on the automation and on the tech side of things. So yeah, he streamlines a lot of stuff for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Pippa, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. I could chat to you for a lot longer, and I think you're working in a really interesting space and providing such an important service to the Australian startup community. So thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was so nice to chat. If anyone has any questions as well after, feel free to reach out to me either on LinkedIn or you can find me on the website or via email.
Brilliant. So it's Pippa Smith from Social Startup Labs on LinkedIn is the best way to find you. Awesome. Thank you so much, and look forward to the next Startup Builder live Q&A in 2 weeks. Thanks so much.
Thanks.